One of my great passions is the idea of the importance of just being ordinary. I think one of the things we're really bad at today, both in society at large and in our churches, is the appreciation of ordinary stuff. If you go into society at large, everything has to be new and improved, the best ever, the fanciest, the most fantastic. You can't these days, and it's one of my big bugbears in life, go into a coffee shop and have a normal cup of coffee. It has to be a fancy cup of coffee all the time. And it's true also in our churches. When we talk about our spiritual life, you find yourself feeling a little bit inadequate if you can't describe a fabulous event, something that has changed your life and you are remarkable and transformed. It almost feels as if you're kind of failing as a Christian if you're just an ordinary Christian, a day-to-day Christian. And yet when I read the Bible, one of the things that I discover over and over again is that God engages with us in the ordinary things of life. The Monday morning in February, that's when God actually begins to encounter us. And there's various reasons for this. One of them is because actually God finds it really hard to work when we're being splendid. I think it's one of the things that is hardest about being Christian, as Paul found and struggled throughout his life. It was actually in weakness that Christ's power is made known in the world. And therefore it is, I'm not saying that it just needs to be in weakness, but it is in an ordinary stuff. When we're being fabulous and fantastic, I think it can be harder for God to be more powerfully known in the world. So one thing is recognising that ordinary things are fine. And they're fine because they allow God to engage in the world in which we live. But the other thing I see in the Bible is the fact that God gives us all sorts of gifts. And here I'm thinking about the gift list that Paul talks about in his epistles in 1 Corinthians and in Romans. And for me, one of the really intriguing things is that you will go to a bookshop or a library and you'll find books upon books on speaking in tongues, about prophecy, and yet Paul's lists of gifts actually include various other things as well as prophecy and speaking in tongues. Things like helping, encouraging, administration. They're not glamorous, they're ordinary everyday things. But actually Paul believed that they were gifts of the Spirit. And he makes very, very clear that those gifts of the Spirit are as important, possibly even more important, because he has issues around prophecy, which he goes on to talk about in 1 Corinthians 14, than the more glamorous gifts. And it seems to me that as Christians, God calls us to embrace ordinariness, just being who we are, doing our everyday life, engaging on a Monday morning in February. And it might be that on a Monday morning in February, when we're just grinding away doing the ordinary stuff, God comes in and is extraordinary. But it also might be that God comes in and does ordinary things. For me, one of the really sad things about God, I often feel sorry for God, is that God is present in the world doing wonderful things. But the trouble is we don't notice it because we get so focused on the big, spectacular, marvellous things of God, which are important and really significant, that actually we do miss sometimes the small things of God. Those moments, in a meeting when everything could go horribly wrong and you would have a big row and it doesn't happen. Or when someone manages to forgive somebody else, or all sorts of different ways. They're just ordinary things, but they're as much of God as the big spectacular things. And it's something about which I'm really passionate, about us as Christians celebrating the ordinary stuff and not just the fabulous stuff.